There is a technology that stores electricity with no chemical reactions, no capacity loss, and no fire risk. It responds in milliseconds, survives extreme heat and cold, and can endure around 100,000 charge cycles. Compared with lithium-ion batteries, it is faster, tougher, and far longer lasting. Yet almost no residential system in America uses it. Installers are not trained for it, appraisers do not value it, and the market barely mentions it. This technology is flywheel energy storage. Its roots stretch back thousands of years, making it far older than modern batteries or even the electrical grid itself. And this is not a story about direct prohibition. It is a story about neglect by default, a powerful technology left behind while the energy industry built everything around lithium-ion. The story begins in Mesopotamia, around 6000 BCE. A potter sits before a heavy stone wheel, mounted on a simple wooden spindle. With each quick push of the foot, the disc begins to spin. The force from the human body comes in short bursts, but the wheel keeps turning smoothly between those bursts. That is the essential principle of a flywheel. A rotating mass stores energy, then releases it steadily over time. The people of that era did not describe it with modern physics. They did not speak of rotational inertia or kinetic energy, but they were already using the principle perfectly. A heavy spinning object could transform irregular human effort into smooth, continuous motion. In practical terms, it made pottery faster, more precise, and more efficient. What makes this even more remarkable is that the same idea appeared again and again across the ancient world. Civilizations in China, Egypt, and the Indus Valley all developed similar spinning systems for working clay. They discovered independently that stored motion could solve a problem human muscles alone could not solve well. So the origin of flywheel energy storage is not a modern invention at all. It is one of the oldest energy technologies in human history. Long before batteries, engines, or power grids existed, people had already learned that momentum itself could act as a form of stored energy. The physics has not changed in 8,000 years. As history moved forward, the flywheel evolved from a simple tool of craftsmanship into a core component of mechanical civilization. In medieval Europe, technical writings began to describe rotating wheels, not only for pottery, but as devices that could smooth uneven motion in many kinds of work. A heavy wheel could absorb energy when force was applied, then release it gradually, making machines run more evenly and efficiently. Around the year 1200, the spinning wheel spread across major parts of the world and transformed textile production. It worked on the same principle human effort came in pulses through the treadle, while the heavy rotating wheel carried that motion forward continuously. What had once helped shape clay was now helping produce thread and cloth on a much larger scale. Then came the Industrial Revolution. In the late 18th century, engineers such as James Watt and James Pickard connected the flywheel to the steam engine crank. This solved a major problem. A piston delivers power in repeated strokes, not in a smooth circle. The flywheel carried the motion through the dead spots, turning intermittent force into continuous rotation. That rotation could then drive factory machines. By 1876, giant industrial engines like the Corliss Centennial engine used enormous flywheels as symbols of power and progress. The principle remained unchanged, spinning mass stored energy between pulses. For thousands of years, flywheels had already proven that steady power could come from stored motion. By the early 20th century, engineers began asking a bigger question. A flywheel could smooth motion for seconds, but could it store useful energy for much longer? In 1917, Dr. Aurel Stodola at ETH Zurich published a major theoretical study on the stress limits of spinning discs. His work showed how fast a rotor could spin before tearing itself apart, laying the mathematical foundation for high-speed flywheel storage. That theory moved closer to reality in the 1940s, when Swiss engineers explored whether a bus could run using a flywheel instead of fuel. The result was the gyrobus, a vehicle powered by a massive spinning rotor. Instead of carrying gasoline or diesel, it stopped at charging points, spun up its flywheel for a few minutes, then drove several kilometers before charging again. Commercial service began in Switzerland in 1953 and later expanded to other regions, including the Belgian Congo. The system worked. It carried passengers without combustion, without exhaust fumes, and without petroleum. But it demanded a network of charging stations every few kilometers. Diesel, by contrast, required only a tank and widely available fuel. The physics of the gyrobus was sound, but the surrounding infrastructure favored another solution. So the gyrobus did not fail because flywheels were impossible. It failed because convenience defeated elegance. Once again, the technology worked, but the market chose the easier path. In the late 20th century, one scientist returned to the problem that had limited flywheels for centuries: friction. His name was Richard F. Post, a physicist at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. After decades working on nuclear fusion, he turned his attention to energy storage when fusion funding declined. Most people at his age would have stepped away. Instead, he focused on the one weakness that kept flywheels from becoming practical for long-duration use. That weakness was the bearing. Traditional flywheels relied on mechanical bearings that physically touched the spinning rotor. Contact created drag, and drag caused energy loss. A system that should have stored energy for many hours would gradually bleed it away through friction. Post understood the issue so clearly that he kept a sign in his office that read, "It's the bearings, stupid." His breakthrough was the use of passive magnetic bearings, including the Halbach array configuration. Instead of resting on surfaces, the rotor could float on magnetic fields inside a vacuum chamber. With almost no contact and almost no air resistance, the flywheel could spin with dramatically lower losses. This changed everything. The rotor no longer behaved like an ordinary mechanical part. It became a near frictionless storage device. Richard Post's work made modern flywheel storage possible. He did not invent the principle, but he solved the engineering barrier that had held it back for generations. After thousands of years, flywheel technology finally had a path into the modern energy world. With modern magnetic bearings and vacuum enclosures, flywheel energy storage became far more than an old mechanical idea. It became a serious modern technology. Studies cited in the script show that advanced flywheel systems can reach round-trip efficiency comparable to lithium-ion batteries. Their core advantage is simple: energy is stored as motion, not chemistry. The faster the rotor spins, the more energy it holds, because stored energy rises with the square of rotational speed. That is why modern flywheels operate at extremely high RPMs. This gives flywheels several major strengths. They can charge and discharge extremely quickly. They can cycle tens of thousands of times without the chemical degradation that slowly weakens ordinary batteries. They also respond almost instantly, making them excellent for situations where power must be delivered in a fraction of a second. In lifetime terms, that durability can make them cheaper than batteries that need replacement every few years. But flywheels also have an important limitation. They lose stored energy gradually over time, often over hours, rather than weeks or months. That makes them less suitable for long, idle storage. They are best in systems where energy is charged and used frequently, such as solar power collected during the day and consumed later the same evening. So the irony is clear. Flywheels are strong, clean, and durable, but precisely because they do not wear out like batteries, they fit poorly into a market built around replacement cycles and recurring sales. If flywheels are so durable and effective, why did the market leave them behind? The answer is not that they were formally banned. On paper, many rules and incentives still allow them. But modern energy storage grew around lithium-ion batteries, and once that ecosystem became dominant, everything else bent toward it. Installers were trained for batteries. Testing labs built standards around battery risks. Appraisers learned how to value battery-backed homes. Manufacturers, financiers, and regulators all moved in the same direction. The script makes this point through the case of Beacon Power. The company built grid-scale flywheel systems that responded in milliseconds and performed frequency regulation with remarkable reliability. Its Steventown plant came online in 2011 and continued operating successfully, showing that the technology itself worked. Yet Beacon Power still went bankrupt. The machines kept spinning, but the business collapsed. That failure revealed a deeper economic problem. A product that can last for decades without major degradation does not create the same stream of repeat sales as a battery system that must eventually be replaced. Investors and companies often favor technologies that generate continuing revenue service contracts and long-term customer dependence. Flywheels do the opposite. They offer permanence. So the real barrier was not physics and not legality. It was market structure. Flywheels were not pushed out by one dramatic decision. They were simply crowded out by a larger, richer, more deeply established industry built around technologies that wear down and must be bought again. Even so, flywheel technology has not disappeared. The script points to modern examples that prove it is still alive. In Western Australia, Key Energy installed a residential flywheel system designed to store solar energy in a heavy spinning steel mass rather than in chemical cells. The system is large, expensive, and far from a simple DIY solution, but it shows that home flywheel storage is possible in the real world. It offers long life, no fire risk, and no chemical degradation. The story extends beyond one house. The script also describes larger installations, including school systems in Australia and major flywheel projects in China. These examples suggest that the technology is not dead at all. It simply survives in small corners where durability, safety, and lifetime economics matter more than market habit. This final section also connects flywheels to other overlooked technologies such as compressed air storage, gravity, storage ice batteries, and earth tubes. In each case, the pattern is similar. The engineering works. The long-term benefits are real. But because these systems are durable, passive, or difficult to turn into repeat purchase products, they remain outside the center of the market. So the conclusion is simple and powerful. The physics of flywheels never failed. The engineering never vanished. What changed was the business environment. Modern markets reward technologies that create dependence and recurring revenue. Flywheels ask for neither. They simply store energy, release it when needed, and keep turning long after more profitable systems have worn out.